Why did the Titanic, which was built in 1200 days, sink in just 2 hours? April 10, 1912. This was the day when the world's largest and most expensive cruise ship Titanic was all set to set sail for its maiden voyage. The Atlantic Ocean was very calm that day and there was no remote chance of a storm. 1,500 passengers had also boarded the ship and millions of people stood on the dock to see the beginning of Titanic's first journey. 6 such mistakes have been made while making it, which is going to leave shortly, which is going to make this ship a victim of the worst accident. Today you will know about Titanic, the most expensive, most luxury and most powerful ship of its time. 6 such mistakes which, if not done, would probably have become famous in the world today, not because of the Titanic crash but because of its success. After all, what were the 6 mistakes that even Captain Edward Smith of Titanic, who had 40 years of experience, could not see? Leaving the captain's 40 years of experience, these mistakes were made by the Titanic operating company David Star Line, which had the experience of operating 107 ships. He didn't even see it. Moreover, these mistakes were not even seen by Titanic manufacturing company Land & Wolff, who had manufactured more than 500 ships just before Titanic. Construction of Titanic started in 1907 and took about 3 years and 2,000 workers. After hard work the ship was prepared. Now the ship was completely ready, but the phase to test it was yet to come. The confidence of the builders of Titanic increased when Titanic successfully passed her first test run. As soon as it passed the test, it was marketed all over the world in a free envelope procession, whose heading was "Nursing Only Titanic means the ship that never sinks has been made." The ship's maiden voyage was scheduled to start from Southampton, England, on April 10, 1912, and the destination was New York, the U.S. city. It cost $30 to travel in the Titanic's economy portion, compared to $150 to travel in first class, which becomes Indian rupee 340,000 in today's era. As a result of this marketing, all the tickets were booked at once and finally the day came when Titanic was about to start her maiden voyage. Mistake number 1. At exactly 12 o'clock noon the Titanic began her maiden voyage and Titanic's mistakes began to emerge. Captain Smith had received a deadline from the owner. In any case, it has to reach New York by April 17, i.e. only in the same days. For this reason, the captain had kept the speed of the new ship very fast from the beginning and this was the first mistake of the Titanic. Captain Smith had to reach New York as soon as possible due to the instructions and pressure given by Mal Khan because it was the first voyage of Titanic and if he did not reach New York time, Titanic's reputation would have suffered a lot, be it any vehicle in the world, machine or from where they have many operating procedures in which speed limit is also a part of these procedures and that part was well late in the beginning of Titanic's journey. In a short while, the ship left the port of Southampton so far that now nothing was visible except the blue sea. Mistake number 2. You had passed 3 days running Titanic. Except for brief stops in France and the Isles, the Titanic had been steadily heading for New York for the past 72 hours. It was the evening of April 14, 1912. There was silence and mist everywhere on the sea, due to which the visibility had also reduced considerably. That same night, another deaf ship was only a few hours ahead of the Titanic. Her captain had given the new wireless about the Titanic floating on the sea, that is, about this class. Experts believe that it was given at least 6 times. But due to the negligence of wireless operators, very important warnings may be missed by them. Perhaps this was a normal thing for them, but this was the second mistake of Titanic's crew. Because Titanic was the first luxury ship of its line and many VIPs were also present in it. For this reason, most of Titanic's attacks were famous for serving first-class passengers. If these warnings were taken seriously, then the entire scene ahead would have been different. The speed of the number 3 ship was also high, and a very important warning had also been missed by them. Titanic was now moving rapidly into the range of icebergs in the most fearless manner. But still the Titanic could have been saved from the accident because the ship's watchmen were ready to give it to the captain only after seeing any ice pack from such a distance. But they did not have one thing to see from a distance and that thing was a telescope. Yes, the watchmen were alert but they could not see Barrett from a distance because of not being far away and this was the third mistake of Titanic. The news of the ice class came to Captain Smith when the ship's watchman reported it. This is an iceberg the size of a football field right in front of the ship, but it was too late because the iceberg had come very close. Mistake number 4. Because ships often encounter such ice boxes in the Atlantic Ocean, which can be handled by big ships comfortably. Perhaps Captain Smith thought so too. As soon as the news of this class came, the captain ordered the engine of the ship to be stopped and also ordered to change the form of Titanic. Of course, Captain Smith tried his best to avoid the iceberg, but the gap was too small to do anything. The iceberg had now hit Titanic's center, but there was still considerable hope for Titanic to survive. This hope was left that maybe the iceberg would not damage the ship's body, or the iceberg would break itself as soon as it collided with the ship, and it would probably have happened if Titanic's fourth mistake had not shown its work. Experts believe that what was on the body of Titanic was not made of steel but of cast iron. The function of ingots is to hold large pieces of iron together, but cast iron is softer than steel. For this reason, the place where the iceberg collided with the body of the Titanic opened due to the pressure there, and then the same thing happened which Captain Smith was afraid of. Mistake number 5. The Titanic had collided with an iceberg the size of a football field, and water had begun to fill the bottom of the ship. This dangerous monk had alerted the entire staff and passengers as well as Joseph Bruce, the owner of the Titanic, who was present in the ship. But there was still hope for Titanic to survive because Titanic was designed in such a way that even if its 3 floors were filled with water, it still could not sink. But it was unfortunate that after crossing the 3 floors of this ship, the water had now reached the 4th floor. Now the matter was out of hand. The Titanic was slowly sinking in the ocean. Now the time had come to save the lives of the passengers present in it without worrying about the ship. Captain Smith issued an emergency alert on the radio. The plan was to shift the passengers to life ports until help arrived. But on this occasion, the 5th mistake showed its work. Yes, the ship had a total of 32 lifeboard space, but due to negligence, only 20 ports were kept. Passengers were 1,500 and boards were only 20, number 6. There was commotion everywhere and everyone wanted to ride in those few well-chosen boats. At 12:45, the first emergency boat was lowered into the sea, but here another 6th mistake happened. In the chaos, the boats were lowered into the sea without filling them completely, in which most of the first-class passengers were given preference. That is, the people who were richer were made to sit first. If more passengers were made to sit in the boats, then human lives would have been less. Now the ship was rapidly sinking in the sea. At 2:18, all the lights on the Titanic were extinguished due to a short circuit, and the next day, the ship split into 2. Why did it take 2:40 for the Titanic to sink completely into the ocean, and thus 1,500 people were thrown into the Atlantic? Died by drowning in the cold waters of the ocean? Let us also tell you one more thing, that the temperature of the water at that time was -2 degrees centigrade. Means even if the passengers jump in this cold water, then there was no chance of survival because human beings cannot survive for more than 30 minutes in such a low temperature. It is said that the death toll was much higher than 1,500 because many of the people who knew about the ship attack had boarded the ship without tickets. The largest number of survivors were children in Hawa 3. On the other side was Captain Smith, who was trying to save lives all the time, and he was the last man who jumped from the sinking ship. Hope you will like and share this video. Thanks for watching Fact TV.